Thanks for the introduction. I won't hold you from the cakes and coffee for too long, I promise. So my name's Ed Wilson. I'm a lead designer with Aurecon. In our Sydney transport business, we have, I think, about 9 road designers, 4 or 5 surveyors, 6 water engineers and 2 other civil designers, all working in 12D, and 1 guy working with MX. We do work with our colleagues in other offices, particularly Newcastle, Brisbane, but also Thailand, Vietnam, and sometimes Africa. I'm here because Joel asked me to talk about a current Workshare experience with Synergy, and I chose the project with the largest element of shared work. So I'll talk a little bit about the project, the complexities we bumped into, our user experiences with Synergy, and some surprising outcomes I wasn't expecting. The backstory to this started last year. We had a busy pipeline of projects for 2016, and like all large consultants, the business plan is for the busy offices to support the quieter design centres with shared work. So that's the catalyst for the work sharing, and to that end, somebody decided to trial 12D Synergy and see whether it offered a compelling alternate to ProjectWise, which continues to be plagued with experiences, especially in the CAD world, where it's most heavily used. So who would have guessed that a hosting application by Bentley for Autodesk's AutoCAD would be less than ideal? Yeah, we're all shocked. So this airport east precinct was chosen to be the pilot project for Synergy. Suffice to say, the pilot was successful. We got it done, and the project's currently out to tender. Following that, at the moment in Sydney, there are 3 WestConnex projects in design and a couple more in the pipeline. Our team has stage 2 shown at the bottom of this map. The project will complete the current M5 past Sydney Airport and provide several new connections. And NorthConnex, guys, if we're comparing size, yours may be the longest, but ours is the most expensive. So the project includes 9 kilometres of new tunnels, about 3 kilometres of surface road widening and improvements, and a modest interchange at St Peters, just north of the airport, plus all the usual sundry parks, shared paths and that kind of thing. The project team is pretty substantial and includes Leighton and international partners Dragados and Samsung as the lead contractors. I fit into the Aurecon Jacobs joint venture, who are responsible for the design of the roads and tunnels and all the other civil elements. With the current level of activity in Sydney, most organisations need to share the workload around, because there's no way that these projects could be resourced fully from Sydney. Our 12D team is pretty well dispersed. Most are in the Mascot design office near the Sydney Airport, but we also do work in several other locations, from Hobart down south to Bangkok in the north. To work, Synergy has to offer a pipeline through multiple corporate systems and their different security protocols, send data over multiple ISPs, a mixed bag of PC system security technologies, home internet connections and Wi-Fi. Yep, so my focus is on the Workshare, but we all enjoy shiny pictures, so here is one. There's a movie there somewhere. In the bottom right, down here. So this is the modest interchange at St Peters. I'm not involved in the day-to-day design of the project, so I can't really talk about the civil design or the road design much. So challenges, there were a few. I've got to know, in implementing Synergy for the first time for me and for the IS people around me in Sydney, I've got to know those guys much better than I used to. Spend a bit more time talking to them. We have an agreement across the joint venture partners that we share the system cost, which is fair. We share the benefits, we share the cost. Because Synergy is somewhat version critical, 12D software upgrades need to be coordinated through the partners. So you just need to be aware that that's something to be aware of. When our site offices are new, they're pretty ordinary networks sometimes, so that's something to keep an eye out for in terms of connection numbers and speeds that you can get. And our IS architects decided to allow traffic from a couple of known external locations. So external users have to connect to their own corporate networks first, and then the traffic is routed through their networks. It's seamless, provided that those guys connect to their VPNs or their networks first, because without those connections, they just won't get into our servers. So users sometimes aren't aware of that, and they move offices around without telling us, and they sort of appearing from a new IP address. The traffic will just get blocked. So the positives, it works, and the users like to use it. I've had plenty of really positive feedback. The training is very straightforward. It's now been, it started off as an hour's talking and then 15 minutes, and now I just send an email around with a 3-page memo. This is how you use it, this is what it is. And provided you have a good connection to the server, 12D works quite a bit faster via Synergy compared to a traditional LAN. Opening projects is about 4 times faster in our testing, and also the computations once you're inside 12D, they are operating a lot faster because you're working on your hard drive, which is quite a bit quicker. And it's very scalable, and we're only just scratching the surface. We've only been really live for 6 or 12 months. So becoming an administrator of such a system is new territory. It's stuff that I haven't done before. So you make a few mistakes, but after a project or two, it's running pretty smoothly now. So it's a good idea to have more than one administrator to cover for leave and sicknesses and that kind of thing. It's been mentioned by Travis earlier that if your connection to the server isn't great, you will sort of have degraded startup times. So we've had some reports from users who are remote or on slow connections, particularly in Thailand. The speed up there isn't great getting back to our servers in Sydney. So whilst they're in 12D, it's great, but starting up can take longer. And because we have a fixed number of users, it's useful if the users, when they're finished with projects or when they're finished working on a project for a month or 3 months or something, is to let us know so we can release their license back to other users. But that doesn't necessarily happen. And housekeeping, it's still important. I've not set up any rules or controls in the system. It's pretty open, just like the LAN would have been. So we do occasionally see some horrendous housekeeping, particularly the drainage guys. They just tend to throw everything in a working folder, and it's horrible. So I added this slide yesterday morning, coming up on reading the Qantas in-flight magazine. It had an article celebrating 3 firms for being early adopters, transforming their own business and the wider industry. There was Clayton Utz for leading the class with their IT systems, Telstra for its flexible workplaces, which were available to all staff, and the ARU for attracting top-flight women. And so to our own organisation, we weren't listed in this Qantas in-flight magazine, but the CEO does have us, is positioning the firm to be an employer of choice and to attract the best to the firm. And to that end, we've got a policy now of flexible work times and location. And So the thing about all of this is you can't, any of those 3 or 4 firms, they can't achieve those outcomes with old or legacy systems. You know, something like synergy is really necessary there. So through this process, we had some unexpected benefits. With our fixed resources moving to synergy, moving 12D into synergy meant it's easier to balance our workloads across the organisation. We did expect that. That was the whole point. But compared to the long commutes and fly in, fly out, working via synergy allows us to maintain our normal lifestyles and commitments. There's plenty of users on that WestConnex projects have reported that they're really happy they've avoided long commutes and wasted times in airports, hotels and taxis. And so finally, 12D users are able to avail themselves of the flexibility that some of the others in the industries have been able to do for some time. So, you know, start early, work late, work from home for a bit, that kind of thing. Our colleagues in far-flung places, you know, far north Queensland, overseas, Tasmania, that kind of thing, they're able to join in on these big projects which they may not have been able to before. And so the business and the 12D users are both more sustainable, and so that's a win-win for both of us. And so we know from CT scans and that kind of thing that the human brain looks something like this. There's the hard-working, rational voice up there who wants to do the right thing. There's also the instant gratification monkey who yearns for a distraction. So when working Workshare, there's plenty of opportunities for bad things to happen. And that's when you might meet this guy, the panic monster. He can be woken up when your technology stops being useful and starts being a pain. The panic monster can throw a spanner in the works of your nice calm week. All those calm decisions and balanced work-life, the balanced work-life you experience, they're all at risk. Hell, even the little monkey gets screwed up at these times. So the point is that the right technology, with the right technology, you can keep these guys quiet and working the right way. So Worksharing and Synergy did help our business, and it's helping our people and those in our JV partner as well. Synergy quickly become part of the scenery for me. I prefer to use Synergy rather than the LAN, and that's where I'm starting all of my projects now. I'll be happy to talk about these things a bit later if you wanted to have a chat. I hope you found that interesting, and thanks for listening. You like that one?